called this press conference to provide an update on the condition of Sergeant Lavasser. He was flown on Tuesday night to an undisclosed medical center to have surgery on both of his eyes. He did have that surgery last night. All the shrapnel that could be removed was removed from his eyes, and he's currently recovering from that procedure. It's anticipated within the next 2 days he'll be returned to Lawnwood Medical Center. And I will say that he is spending more time right now not sedated, and he is aware and alert and writing notes and making jokes to his wife and co-workers, so our spirits are heavily lifted. We anticipate that he's going to make a very strong recovery, but to what degree is what we're being guarded and careful about. Which to this point we're not aware of the level of his eye function, and but he's a very strong man with a very strong will, and we're confident that he's going to make a strong recovery at this point. So we feel he's out of the woods, and we just wanted to take an opportunity to thank the community, as well as the business partners and law enforcement partners, politicians. The outpouring of support has been actually overwhelming. I can tell you for the first couple of days, I have 2 cell phones I'm carrying, and I couldn't keep up with either one of them with the amount of contact and support we were receiving. If you notice on your way in here, there's a bunch of food that was sent by Publix and Mission Barbecue. So, you know, there are always strong supporters, and again, we're just very grateful for that. It's lifted the spirits of the officers within the organization and made this this endeavor a little bit more comfortable for us. And we have been overwhelmed with questions from the media as well. So at this point, I'd like to give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have, and I'll do the best I can to answer them as accurately as possible. Sir?
Hi, I'm Keith Burbank with TC Palm. Thank you. I was wondering if you expect him to return to service.
That's to be determined, and to what degree and what level, and that's going to depend on his recovery. And we're absolutely hopeful that he will.
You said a couple of nights ago that this young man, this 32-year-old gunman, had been using store-bought simulated marijuana. Can you explain what product he was using and how that affected his behavior?
So that was the best information I had at the time. I can currently tell you that he had medical-grade marijuana that he had in his possession, a fairly large quantity, and his mother had reported that he'd been using it for days.
So he had a marijuana card, he was...
I didn't say he had the marijuana card, I just said he was in possession of medical-grade marijuana.
So what was he doing at home then that made his mother call the police and say, I need officers to respond?
She said he was acting irrational and crazy.
Was he on your radar in the past?
No. Never on our radar, no calls for service, no history of contact with us other than 1 traffic citation.
Do we know what the disturbance was with the neighbors?
So that was preliminary information, but what we did learn is we received 2 911 calls. The first one was from the mother reporting what was going on, and the second was from a neighbor who contacted him when he was outside the house. Supposedly he pointed a rifle at her and told her to go inside of her home.
And do we
So
know,
she was the second 911 call, so that was the neighbor aspect.
and do we know how he got his hands on this weapon?
He owns about 20 weapons in total. He had a very large, I'll call it an arsenal within his home. He had 2 gun safes full. He had gas masks, ballistic vests, non-perishable survival food. I would call it like a survivalist type equipment. He also had a flashbang. He looked like he was ready.
And some of that equipment is illegal to own, right? He's not supposed to own the gun that was used Monday night.
I don't see anything that would make that gun illegal to be owned.
Can you explain the weapon a little more? I know it's part of the investigation, but what exactly did he have in that moment? And again, you said it didn't look like it was an illegal weapon. It looks like he could have owned that legally.
It's not illegal to own a rifle, a semi-automatic rifle, and no, it's not. It's an AK-47. It's a Zastava Arms model NPAP M70, and it's in .7.62 .39 caliber.
Are you guys aware if he was a long-term resident of Port St. Lucie? Did he move from another place? Do you have an idea of how long he lived in?
We don't have a lot on his history and where he came from or how long he's been here, because we've had no prior interactions with him of note.
But he was living with the mother.
Correct.
Do you have a criminal record?
None.
And
None that we could find.
Has she disclosed any mental health struggles or anything along that nature?
I mean, that was certainly our first thought, but other than he was acting crazy the last couple of days, and when she called 911, she said he's acting crazy, please come and take him away. He's armed himself, and he's outside with a hunting rifle, is what she said.
Chief, what would you say to family members that experience this? Because we do know that currently there are a lot of stressors when we look at the holiday, when we look at statistics, we all know that around times of this there becomes a lot of stress. What would you say to families that are incurring with the mental health crisis? What would be the avenues that they should report to you or to agencies to be more direct about things that are happening?
I think the most important thing I'd like to point out at this point is if you do have some type of emergency going on, the more information you provide us as we're responding, the better we're going to be able to manage that situation. And if we don't know what we're walking into, we might take the wrong approach, right? So the better information you can provide us, the most honest. Too often, family members will underreport because they don't want to get their loved one in trouble. And that could be a very dangerous mixture for both us and the individual we're encountering.
The sensitivity of this nature, when we go back years and we talk about Morningside and the reality that many of your officers face, as well as your agency, is this bringing up any of just questioning about requesting more information from people when they're reporting, or even acknowledging that there might be a crisis with somebody that might be acting erratic or potentially engage in violent behavior?
Let me point this out. So when the 911 call came in, the officers just didn't randomly show up at this house. Sergeant Lavasser picked up the phone, pulled over, called the mother, had a conversation with her, interviewed her over the phone, and extracted quite a bit of information. At that point, he organized the responding officers up the block. He explained how they were going to approach the home and how they were going to handle the situation. The officers were, one driving a patrol vehicle, the others on foot following the vehicle as to provide cover. Sergeant Lavasser, the leader that he is, took point, went up first. He was in front of the next door neighbor's house. The information they had was that he was either in the garage or in the yard. They didn't know where they were going to encounter him. However, they did hear shots fired as they were approaching. Another call came in reporting shots had been fired. So they believed they were approaching an active shooting situation.
And how are those officers that responded that day? How are they doing? I know there was 2 trainees there that night. How are they?
I'm very, very proud of them. They all responded very appropriately and with incredible proficiency for officers who were kind of new and in training, and they did a fantastic job. As you would imagine, they had been traumatized, and it was something that any human being going through. Immediately we take the ones who are involved in the shooting, they go on paid administrative leave. That's not a punitive process, in part for investigative purposes, but it's also in part for their own health and protection. And the other officers who are coming from the department, they go through pretty much the same thing, and they've been granted some leave time.
Were there 6 officers there?
So there were 4 officers that shot, 1 that did not, and then there was Sergeant Lavasser.
Okay.
So for a total of 6.
Can you kind of explain, when the police arrived, what leads up to the moment when this fellow starts shooting, and where was Lavasser when he was wounded?
Right, so as I stated, shooting began before the officers actually got up to the suspect, to the house, okay? So they heard shots as they were approaching. So they feel like they're walking into most likely a gunfight. Sergeant Lavasser was flanked along the house, right beside the house the suspect was in. He turned out he was in the garage. Approaching, we didn't know where he was, right? He was reportedly in the garage or in the yard. So they took a position. The vehicle began announcing, calling him out, asking him to step out. And he did step out, immediately turning towards Sergeant Lavasser and firing on him. Once he was done firing on Sergeant Lavasser, he crossed the street to go to the opposite side of the patrol car and fire on the officers who were no longer behind cover. I released that body cam. You guys saw how that played out.
So there were 5 officers sort of hiding behind a car. I use the term hiding, but they were using that
Using
as
his cover.
protection.
Mm-hmm.
And
They had to quickly maneuver around to the other side to avoid getting shot and return fire.
How far was is it pronounced Riccio or Riccio?
Your guess is as good as mine, sir.
How far was he from Lavasser when Lavasser was shot?
The distance between the two houses, I didn't measure it,
20 feet, maybe, something like that?
something like that.
Okay.
Just to clarify, when you're talking about 4 officers fired their weapons, were any of the trainees those officers, or?
Mhm.
So some of the trainees were the ones who fired their weapons?
Yes.
And I know this has been an incredibly difficult time for the Treasure Coast. I know you all still showed up to Mashkow's memorial the other day. How is it, I know you touched on it briefly, but how is it for all of you to know that he is alert, he's now writing notes, making jokes like you said? Has it been a bit of a relief, of a breath where you can focus a bit more on your work, on your families, knowing that he's now out of the woods?
I can speak for myself, and to that degree is, yeah, 100% the first 24 hours, it's deep concern that he won't survive. And as time went on, it became more and more clear that we had a good chance. As far as, the service, you go because that's what we do, and we support each other. And the Indian River County Sheriff's Office was just as supportive of us as we were of them. So we're gonna go. That being said, it was kind of in a numb state being at that service, waiting to hear how Sergeant Lavasser was going to be. So I'm truly, eternally grateful that we're not going to be in that situation. It's probably one of the hardest thing an agency can go through is losing one of its own on the line of duty. So I know that my team, I have my command staff here with me today, they all probably felt pretty much exactly the same. We've all been working extremely hard since Monday evening. Most of us have had nothing more than a couple of hours a night sleep. We've been busy behind the scenes making sure that Sergeant Lavasser is properly cared for, that he's being watched over, that we got him transported to where he needed to be to get the surgery. A lot of things had to happen behind the scene to ensure that that stuff happened. So it's been an awful lot, and we're glad that we're at the point where we're starting to feel like Sergeant's out of the woods, and we're looking forward to the day that we can greet him at the hospital when he's discharged.
What is your
In the
reaction?
past month, you've seen, 2 situations up in Vero Beach and down here where you're responding to a house with a man that people have been calling police about. Talk about the process of responding to a scene like this, because you said they know that in some circumstances they're entering a very dangerous situation. How does that process play out before you guys even arrive?
It requires an awful lot of skill and experience, not just by the officers, but by the supervisors. No 2 calls are identical. No 2 calls are exactly the same. You have to gather as much information as you possibly can and then make informed decisions. That's really the best way I can answer that question. No 2 responses are ever the same.
You said, I think, early on that this was a mental health call. Is that what it really was, or did you learn later that it was the marijuana that did all this?
Well, I think anytime you have anybody that's in a state of mind where they're going to fire on responding police officers unprovoked, I think that their mental state is certainly questionable. And that's probably what I was alluding to in that comment. I would say in this situation, I think, based on what I'm being told, and I've never met this man, that it was a drug-induced state that he was in. His mom said that he was something along the lines of delusional and hallucinating. So I think it was more likely substance in this case. He has no history that we have identified of mental health crisis, no Baker Acts that we could find. and none that the family has disclosed to us.
You said he had 20 guns in his house. What's your reaction that he had so many weapons in there? What do you think he was intending to do?
Again, there are a lot of people that have a lot of weapons and they're responsible gun owners and they're in the right state of mind. So having 20 guns in and of itself doesn't faze me terribly so. I think the presence of a ballistic vest, a gas mask, a flashbang, non-perishable survival food, that starts to paint maybe a different picture. I don't know a whole lot about this man at this point and his history, but it's concerning that he's preparing himself for some type of battle at some point.
Are you looking at his online activity to see if you can find anything about what he had going on in his mind?
Absolutely we are. I just don't have a whole lot of information on that at this point.
And if you don't mind, one more time, could you kind of explain where he was when the shots were fired and
Where who was?
I'm sorry?
Where who was?
Where Riccio was and where Sergeant Levasseur was when this shooting unfolded, and what happened next?
So the two houses are side by side. Sergeant Levasseur's in front of the next door neighbor's house, and the suspect steps, actually I think he was down on one knee, comes around the corner from the garage, immediately points it at the sergeant and fires on him. So after the sergeant dropped, he exited the garage, ran across the driveway, out into the street, to the other side of the patrol car, and then started firing at the other officers.
And then he was shot and killed in the street out there?
Absolutely.
Okay. I spoke to a neighbor who said he thinks there were 30, 40, 50 shots fired. Do you know how many shots were fired?
I do.
How many were fired?
10 by the suspect and 62 by police officers.
72 shots.
62.
I mean, total of 72 shots.
Right. 10 by him, 62 by us.
The AK-47, how many shots does that weapon hold?
Depends on the size of the magazine that's placed in it. At this point, I don't know what the capacity was on his.
Was the suspect, was he visiting his mom? Was he living there? Do you know?
I have the understanding he lives there.
He lives there.
Yes.
You know what he does for a living or did for a living?
I don't. Sir.
Excuse me, Jeff Alexander, Hometown News. Did you say there had or had not been any calls about this man even within the last week? This is the first time?
We have no history with that man in that residence.
And just for the record, I know Sergeant Levasseur is a 27-year veteran. How old is he?
55?
55? Okay, thank you.
Chief, what would you say to our community that is certainly experienced a rapid growth? I know me personally, I've lived here since 2005, and there has certainly been a large growth. What would you say to your community, to the constituents that are here that might have some reservations? What would you be able to assure them of?
I'll say that in a community this size, or smaller or larger, anywhere in the country, you're going to have incidents. Where you have people, you're going to have incidents. You're going to have incidents of crime. You're going to have incidents of mental health. You're going to have the whole gamut. Our rate of crime and incidents is extraordinarily low. That being said, we're not going to be immune from tragic incidents. We're not going to be immune from violence. No matter how hard we try, no matter how many police officers you put on the street, people are going to bring calls for service and problems. That being said, our crime rate's extremely low. I will say it certainly feels, as of late, we've had more than our fair share of traumatic incidents, but I attribute that to the holiday season coming, and people tend to get a little bit anxious, and they go through different types of emotions this time of year, so it's not particularly unsettling for me at this point, although anytime we have to deal with an incident like this, it's going to be rough. And I know that the community is feeling this as well as we are. And again, their support has been incredible, so we're just so thankful for that.
Did Levasseur have the surgery in?
Ladies and gentlemen, we just have time for about 2 more questions. We'll be happy to assist you after those 2 questions tonight is further.
I heard he had the surgery in Orlando, is that right?
I'm going to not disclose the location because he's currently there. So for his safety, I'll let everybody know where the surgery occurred when he returns to Fort Pierce.
Did he have shrapnel in both eyes?
Yes, he did.
So you know, sir, whether he'll retain his vision or?
I don't know.
Possible he may be blind from this?
I don't know what the outcome's going to be. We're very hopeful, but at this point, he's bandaged up, so there's no way to tell what's going on there.
We're looking forward to a good day.
We are looking forward to the day that he is discharged from the hospital and we can greet him and give him the hero's welcome, yes. And we're very grateful that we're going to have that opportunity.